and welcome to 2023. This is Matheson Talks, where we discuss tech and everything in between. My name is Mike Vega, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mariano Chiesa. Hello, Mariano.
Hi, Mike. Happy New Year, and happy to be here, as always.
Happy New Year. We also have a very special guest, Carla Chinsky, Matheson Project's in-house rock star. Hello, Carla.
Hello, Happy New Year, and happy to be here.
Happy New Year. Quick note, we would love to hear your comments as we're always checking out our Twitter and LinkedIn at Matheson Talks. This episode is sponsored by Matheson Projects, Inc., a web development company, and we're actually offering a custom coded trading bot. Our bots can connect to any trading platform such as E-Trade, Robinhood, and program to perform high-frequency algorithmic trading. It's perfect for those who want to take emotions out of their trading. You can check it out at fiverr.com/Matheson Studios. And for those who are hearing us for the first time, we invite you to check out our previous episodes where we discuss cybersecurity, data protection, how to fight hunger with AI, and much more. In the last part of this series, we're having a roundtable discussion with our team concerning the UN's 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. In this episode, we'll be discussing the global challenges we face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, justice, and peace. But first, let's quickly revisit the UN's list of 17 goals for 2030, with the first being, number 1, no poverty. Number 2 is zero hunger. Number 3, it's good health and well-being. Number 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Number 10, reduced inequalities. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 13, climate action. Number 14, life below water. Number 15, life on land. Number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And number 17, partnerships for the goals. Now, that is a long list, but they're very thorough and thought out, each goal. So thanks again for joining us in this roundtable discussion, Carla. I appreciate you joining us. I would like to discuss, from this list, and because it's such a wide variety, a wide range of goals, from this list, which goal would you consider the most important for you?
For me, it's most important to focus on the goals surrounding climate change and global warming. I think many of these are actually focused on improving conditions both on Earth and both on land and underwater. And I think it's also important to fight for the preservation of the environment as individuals, and also pressuring our public officials to pass laws and regulations that, favor these changes. So that's what's most important to me, because they actually relate to a lot of these other goals, such as poverty and hunger. So I think that's what we should be focusing on next.
Yeah, and a lot of it is political as well, because, for example, when I know that Brazil has a new president, but before, in the last president, they pretty much allowed for the destruction of the Amazon forest, which is pretty much, the world's breathing lungs. It's like the lungs of the world, because they're the one. The Amazon forest is what's sucking in all the CO2, and they would let it burn. They would let it, be cut down, all for profits, and so it is political as well. What's your take on that?
I think actually, and related to the last goal on global alliances, we should always take into account the alliances between countries in South America and subdeveloped or underdeveloped nations, quote unquote, and more developed or Western nations or civilizations, just because it's not the same when we're talking about policies and possibilities for budgeting, for example, when it comes to climate change action in the West or in any other place in the world where maybe priorities are different, and the cultural perceptions around the importance of nature, the natural world are also different. And that I think surpasses any kind of particular political agenda or kind of particular representatives or parties,
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. We look at it from kind of like a privileged point of view is, wow, why aren't these Latin American countries doing anything to protect the rainforest? Well, at the same time, we're not taking into account that this is their economy, so unless us, from let's say from North America want to say or point finger at them, then we should help them establish, like economies where this isn't so much a necessity for them to do, because it does seem like it's out of necessity, right, to kind of farm the Amazon. What's your take?
Yeah, and also, as we said in our previous episode in Spanish, also for the beginning of 2023, it's also about we had put the example in place of the U.S. and I think you said Russia donating their vaccines to countries that needed it the most and maybe don't have the infrastructure to develop their own vaccines or have their own campaigns for public health in place. So yeah, that's like more of the same. You talked about something else, but I don't remember what you mentioned.
Oh, no, it was like us feeling in the West, we're pointing fingers and feeling privileged, like, oh, why can't they do it? But it's just out of necessity, I feel like, to farm the animal.
This doesn't excuse, any sort of negligence. That's not what I meant to say, but no, you wanted to say something.
No, I like to use a metaphor here to describe why I think these objectives are crucial, and then I can say which one for me is priority. But I like to think in a boat, like the whole planet as a boat. And what happens if you row with only one side of the boat? You will spin in circles and you will get nowhere. So if we don't match our politics together and our agendas and our goals, and if we don't row or we don't pull this boat together, we will be staying in the same place. I think the first four of these goals are the most crucial, because you can't have people thinking in climate actions or in innovations if they are hunger or if they are poor or if they are not educated or if they are unhealthy or sick. So I think if we solve those four goals first, we will have pretty much 40% of the world giving a huge jump on education and in quality of life. So this will lead of innovation and it will change the head of the people.
Yeah, and I was watching a podcast by and I think it was Chamath. I forget his last name, but he's like a billionaire. He's really smart, and he says that quite literally, poverty and world hunger, which would ultimately, it could be ultimately solved with just quality education. If we all leveled the playing field where the majority of us went, into programming or just to fuel innovation, we would all, we could potentially just eliminate poverty and hunger just by quality education, which ultimately would lead to good health and well-being.
Yes. Sorry, I want to make a comment, and I don't know if you know a movie called it's called El Hijo del Viento in Spanish. I need to check the name of in English, but it talks about how in Africa, in a small town, a guy started putting aeolic windmills to create energy. So how innovation changed the reality of small towns and how people educated, as you said, and I think it's crucial. But it's a problem of what comes first, if the chicken or the egg, because if you are hungry, you can study, and if you can study, you won't stop being hungry, and you will depend of others people charity to eat. So it's a complicated thing to organize, but I think this all four comes together. If you are healthy, and if you don't have hungry, and if you are not poor, you can be educated and you will rise.
Well, I think we are viewing these objectives in a sort of linear way, kind of one comes after the other, and maybe we should start viewing them as more of a synergy, as more interrelated than they actually are. Maybe the numbers don't help, like naming 1, 2, 3 and up to, I think, 17 kind of leads to this perception that one comes after the other and they're not interdependent or almost codependent.
I don't think that's at least that's not my comment doesn't go that way, but I don't think people see that way. I think they are organized. Actually, the UN present these objectives as a circle, actually pointing all of them through the center. These are named through numbers because there are 17 goals and that's it. But if we talk about this in the other chapters about how these objectives interconnect, because if you fight for the clean water, you will have better cities and sustainable communities. And if you have production and responsible consumption, you will have less waste, and it will improve the life on Earth. And they are all, I totally agree, they are all interconnected. I just said that for me, the first four are the priority because of the situation of the 40% of the population of the world, which are poor and hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Carla, you made a great point. It is very synergistic. I mean, one cannot go without the other. Obviously, if you're hungry, you can't do anything else. Like food is going to be your main objective and goal for everything. So, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's based off, if we think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, obviously the physical survivals is more important. Zero hunger is more important than trying to get a PhD. You know what I mean? So that it makes sense. It makes sense. Moving along to the next question. Which goals do you feel close to being completed by 2030? And which goals do you feel aren't within reach by the 2030 timeline? Carla?
Yeah, I would like to start with a positive. I think, as I said in the Spanish version, even if we haven't we're not at the level of gender equality that we deserve and that we want as a community and as a society, I do think that lots of advancements have been made, and lots of positive campaigns for communication and for awareness and educating and providing education have been put in place during the last, I think 20 years. I've actually grown up seeing things change for the last 1 or 2 decades. So it's been eye-opening to see how, for example, in my country, We have the regulations in place so that you can change your gender on your ID. In 2010, same-sex marriage was approved. And now abortion has been legalized in Argentina, which is my country, the country I live in right now. So yeah, that's for me one of the goals we're closer to. Yeah, I also think that it's about translating. I'm as a translator, I believe that gender equality has the potential to translate well across different cultures. It just takes nuance and a lot of work, but it can be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mariana.
No, I think Carla is right. I think that the one is this close of these objectives for 2030 is gender equality, because I think people was it's really empathic all over the world. We have some struggles because we can talk about the Qatar World Cup now and how girls are treated there, and how an Iranian soccer player will be executed for defend women. And we have a lot of places to work with, but I feel like the most part of the world are good with this kind of objective, and it's going to be well taken. And on the other hand, I think the weather actions, it's going to be hard because, as Carla says, or Mike also, when you've tried to change the whole culture of a country, like we have here in Paraguay, we have smoke season. And we have we discussed this last episode. We have people who burn their waste, and instead of waiting for a truck to pick it up. So it's really a problem to change the culture, or maybe change the lobby for oil, fuel, or maybe electric companies, or other lobbies that fight to keep the status quo.
Mm-hmm. And usually the status quo is for the benefit of the companies, which is usually not the benefit for humanity as a whole. So, I mean, me personally, I do agree. Gender equality is getting there. Obviously, there are parts of the world, but they're becoming the minority. When you have, Qatar, Iran, they are becoming kind of like the outcast. People are almost seeing them like, what? Wow, these guys still haven't changed on that, So, we are getting there. Reduced inequalities. I mean, if we're talking about like being inclusive towards the LGBT community, which people are much more inclusive, even from 10 years ago, they are. But if we're talking about like poverty inequalities, that needs to change. We have way the disparity between the 99% top wealth versus that that 1% top wealth rather versus a 99%, that are either middle class or below middle class wages, is insane. And that needs to change. And we're seeing inflation where a lot of these corporations are posting massive profits and they're still inflating prices. And so you kind of start thinking, okay, is it inflation, or are you guys all in cahoots causing the inflation just so you can get more, gouge more money out of us? So that in itself is another tangent I can go off. But, for me, it's going to be quality education. I feel like that's what we're getting closer to by 2030. And the reason I say that is because, you have the internet, and the internet is a great resource. Mind you, assuming you know English, because a lot of this is English based, although there are translation services, right? So you have places like Khan Academy, where it's pretty much K through 12 free education. You can learn anything from chemistry, from algebra, calculus, everything in a school format, and they're a nonprofit, so they're all over the world. So they're definitely opening doors in that regard for those that want to seek higher education. And then you also have things like courses, obviously, places like that offer share, like Skillshare, and that offer just different avenues to learn. So I feel we will get there by 2030. But what we won't reach by the 2030 timeline, I feel, is going to be either life below water or life on land. And that ties into just this, personally, for this recent post news that, that these massive populations of crab are dying off. And you may think, okay, well, I guess no more crab. But also you got to think about the ecosystem around crab, because crabs, literally, I think it was 84% died off. With billions of crabs, it got to the point where the United States had to step in and say, all right, we aren't going to fish for no more crab. So then you got to think, okay, so what other ecosystems rely on crabs itself? And if one dies off, then you have this whole like it could turn into this like feedback loop of just different life dying off. And you have overfishing, which isn't really being done anything in regards to that. Too many people love sushi. And then you also have, life on land. And it kind of ties into climate change, where you see polar bears, they're dying off because they're losing their ice cap. They're losing the North Pole, So I just hope that we can turn the tide and we can make a shift, so we can avoid so we can get closer to our goals by 2030. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Yeah, I did want to add something real quick. That what you said about the middle class, the difference between the top 1% and the bottom 99%. Actually, in Latin America, there's this like weird phenomenon going on. And also specifically in my country, for example, where we don't know where the middle class is, because the middle class's ability to spend and to save money is getting like narrower and narrower with time, because we have really severe inflation every year. I think it's 100% annual inflation rate. So just watch out, guys.
Yeah, that's another thing. Even in the United States, even in America, everybody is saying that they're the middle class. There's like this conspiracy, I guess you could say, to pretty much kill the middle class, where you will own nothing and you will have to pay for everything. So the days of owning a house, the days of owning a car, and anything of ownership are coming to an end, and people really feel like this is being done on purpose, because obviously if you don't own anything, you're stuck to either paying renting for a house, or paying a note on a car, and it's and all it means is more profits to the top 1%. So yeah, I agree that the middle class is definitely it's almost becoming extinct, so to speak. But I digress. Okay, next question. What can we do on a personal level to help the UN achieve these goals? Carla?
Yeah, what can we personally do? I would like to repeat myself regarding what I said in the episode we did in Spanish, where I said, you can't stop the wheel of consumerism or consumption. If you can't stop that wheel, what you can do is change your conception of how you consume and why you consume, and try to redistribute from your standpoint, from your perspective. Whether it is the food you eat, whether it is thinking, hey, do I really need this? Or maybe it's about pressuring your public officials into, giving them a call. It's not what I said before, it's not all about like going out and being part of a political campaign or maybe being part of an activist group. It can be something that you can do maybe from the sidelines, so to speak, but it can be just as important.
Right. Mariano?
I think being empathic to adjust your behavior to respect the gender equality and that kind of behavior. I repeat myself, and I think you can help the planet recycling and taking care of your waste and trying to consume less water and not washing your car every 2 days or every week, or trying to take short showers, or trying to do whatever you can to not waste or limited resources, actually, because if we don't have water, the planet will die. And if we don't have water, the people will die first. The planet might last more than people. And you can do your part to reduce inequalities and take care of the land or the sea, and to help the climate change. I don't know, not using your air conditioning in 18 Celsius, instead of using in 24, that kind of stuff. Minor changes do great things.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I wanted to add that I think we shouldn't, feel bad because we can't accomplish these things. I said something about veganism, for example, or alternative forms of nutrition being very expensive. So it's like more, if you do have the opportunity, if you do have the money to go that extra mile, then I think it's our responsibility almost to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And, on the topic of water, here in the United States, specifically California, which is pretty much the powerhouse of agriculture production across the United States. So people really depend on us for food. We're having a severe water issue. And this drought that we had for almost 10 years now is absolutely insane, where we have to actually borrow water from other states. And it's kind of, we as a society have become conscious about it, because I remember growing up, or even in my teens, like everybody, like having, if you're going to be a homeowner, you had to have a perfect green lawn, and you always see green lawns everywhere. Somewhere along the line, like maybe 5 years ago, it started changing. People started taking out their lawns and just replacing it with rocks. And it makes much more sense, because imagine the water wasted because of that vanity of having that green lawn, and as people are making these slow changes, I think it will have an effect. But I just hope that it happens sooner than later, because like this year, for example, it was a huge deal, specifically on YouTube, where it went viral, and it was the drought of Lake Mead. It's pretty much a dam where water from the Colorado rivers, they collect all that water, and it got to a point where it was almost just drained, and everybody was like, where's our water going? What's going on? So, luckily we did do a podcast for those listening. If you want to check out on a politician in Nevada that had some insight on that, for those listening, want to check it out. But pretty much there are solutions that we are taking in place, but they are coming in a little bit slower. And I just wish we did a little bit faster. You guys want to add anything on that?
No, I totally agree with both of you. We need to be conscious of what we are doing from now on, or from the past on, because we have only one planet to live in. So
exactly, yeah, and it goes with your metaphor of, if you're going to row a boat, you can't just have one side rowing. You're going to row in circles. We have to all work together.
Uh-huh.
All right, so next question: should all countries align with these objectives, or why wouldn't countries want to align with this agenda set forth by the UN? And I just want to kind of reemphasize, like, all the countries agree there is climate change, but there's sometimes bureaucracy or politics that prevents such thing from happening. For example, there was a UN Paris Agreement where the majority of the countries around the world agreed that they wanted to make a change towards net zero carbon emissions by, I think, 2050. And the United States joined. Everybody was happy. But because, politics and stuff, we had a president that took us out. I said, "Oh, it doesn't benefit us." Luckily, our new president said, "No, this is very important." So we got back in. So we got out total 2 times, or got in a total 2 times and got out once. And so I feel like we definitely should be more like focused and more serious in terms of and align ourselves with these objectives and almost make it a law so that we take it very seriously. So what's your guys' take on these? Like, should countries align with these objectives, or why wouldn't countries want to align with these objectives? Carla?
I think the issue is not so much if they will want to align, but how they want to align. You mentioned like getting the law involved, and I think while that's a quick like a steadfast solution, it kind of gives you food for thought. Do we need law and law enforcement getting involved when it comes to, for example, fines for public littering, right? Mm-hmm. And also, I think it's about, again, what I said in the beginning, shaping those public responsibilities by communicating from other countries that are doing it right, or perceivedly so, communicating to other countries like Brazil that aren't prioritizing that agenda to like start doing that, and communicating support through material things such as concrete like resources such as food or clothing.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
I believe, as we discussed previously, that the COVID has shown the whole world that we are a big unit and not 8 billion people or 200 countries. I don't remember exactly the number, but we are a big unit. So if we should make, or we should try to make the changes, the cultural changes, the industrial changes, the innovation changes, to make every country aligned with this agenda, because we don't have that much time. The climate is changing. We have 38, 40, 45 degrees Celsius last week here in Paraguay. So we can lost food, we can lose water, and we can have people dying because of this heat. And if we lose people, we lose quality of people, and we lose workforce, and we lose maybe the future genius that create a breakthrough invention. So we need to take care of everyone here, and we need to take care of everyone as a whole, not as individuals or country by country. Because, for example, like you said, Mike, your country comes and goes through the Paris Agreement, and this should be a law, and I don't know, something
mandatory,
and something that doesn't matter which side you are with, or which political party you are representing. Everyone should agree that the climate change actions are important. So you can't have people coming and going from this agreement.
Yeah, and you know what? Unfortunately, I think it's going to take like a really catastrophic event, like people dying or something, like to people. So countries really take it seriously. I know that India, I believe, some parts in India, like with that houses millions of people. Within 2 years, it's literally going to be too hot for them and too humid for them to sustain life in those areas. Like there's something called like dead zones, because your body can only cool you off so much by sweating, but because it's so humid and there's literally no wind and it's too hot, it's just impossible to sustain life. And it's going to be those type of events, I feel, that really kind of shed light into how serious this problem of climate change is.
Yes, and actually,
Yeah.
as you said, Mike, we need to take care of this. Because if people dies and we have regions desertification in regions like the Sahara Desert, which in the past was an ocean, you can have a really big notion there what is happening if you don't take care of the planet.
Right. And so if you imagine the Sahara Desert was once an ocean, could you imagine somewhere else in the world suddenly turning into a desert right before our eyes, just because of climate change? It's something actually very scary. And that's why I hope, we can turn it around by 2030. But yeah, Carla or Mariana, would you guys like to add any final comments?
Yeah, sorry, I already added a final comment, but I was thinking about the goal to strengthen institutions for justice. And I think, the UN should we should start, as we say in Spanish, start by looking at ourselves in the mirror. And I think the UN should, try to get everybody on board, because ever since its creation, in the post-war era, it started kind of losing that discourse of getting everybody behind these objectives. And I think the UN could potentially be a big part of countries aligning or not with these objectives, depending on the strength of the institution as a whole. So that's kind of what I wanted to say to answer your question. And again, thanks for inviting me over.
Oh, thank you so much, Mariana.
I want to close with something that Carla said on our Spanish episode. The whole world has a line on below or behind, the objective of survival to COVID-19, and it took, as you said, Mike, a matter of life or death to make people understand that we should align through common objectives. If not, we are not going to survive. As you said once at the beginning of this podcast, we are as strong as a chain as our weakest link. So if we have people that eat a bat in China, and we collapse the whole world because of that, that shows that we are really a really fragile ecosystem. So we need to take care of this.
Yeah. And you know what? It's kind of funny. I just thought of this analogy because, and it goes back to what you're saying, like, we notice things are changing. Like when it's a very serious threat, if it's COVID, then we know, okay, this is a serious threat. It's killing us. We're dying. Let's do something about it. If aliens were to come to, we know that what the threat is. But with climate change, it's a little bit different because it's like, it's just getting a little bit hot. It's getting a little bit cold. But you dump a frog into boiling water, right? And let's say it's not boiling. Let's say you just turn on the water and it's slowly getting hotter. It's slowly getting hotter, and the frog is like, it's kind of getting hot here, but it's not too bad. It isn't until it's like boiling, it's about to die. It's like, yo, I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like that's what's happening with humanity as a whole.
Great comment.
Thank you. All right. So this concludes the last part of the series of the UN's 2030 Agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. We hope this was an informative series, and more importantly, we hope to have shed some light on some of the most important challenges facing humanity in the 21st century. If you have any feedback, suggestions, or just want to leave us a comment with your thoughts, be sure to check out our Twitter at Matheson Talks. Again, for you traders out there, we'd like to let you know about our custom trading bot. Our bots can connect to any of the trading platforms and perform high-frequency algorithmic trading. You can check it out at fiverr.com/Matheson Studios. Again, I'd like to wish you guys a happy new year and thank you so much for listening.
Yes, happy new year.
Bye.